Wind, hear me!
Calling upon the wind's protection, Jean creates a dandelion field, knocking nearby enemies back and dealing animo damage. The field also quickly heals nearby allies and all party members. This healing scales with Jean's attack power. The dandelion field continuously heals characters within it, infusing them with animo, while dealing animo damage to enemies who enter or leave the field. Once the talent Let the Wind Lead is unlocked, using Dandelion Field will regenerate some additional elemental energy.
Verdict is...
Surrounding himself in flames, Duuk knocks nearby enemies back, before gathering the flames into his blade and launching a phoenix, dealing massive pyro damage to enemies in its path. Duuk's normal and charged attacks will also deal pyro damage for a period of time. Dawn has a very large hitbox, allowing it to not only strike airborne foes, but also forcibly reposition enemies to an extent, making it very strong against groups. The pyro damage conversion that Dawn provides further strengthens Duuk's attacks. Unlocking the Blessing of Phoenix talent increases the duration of Dawn's pyro damage conversion, and gives Duuk a pyro damage bonus.
Sacred name, Fortune Preserver.
When Chi-Chi releases the adeptal power sealed inside herself, she marks nearby enemies with a fortune-preserving talisman and deals cryo damage to them. When enemies marked with fortune-preserving talismans take damage, the character dealing the damage is healed. By choosing an opportune moment to use Adeptus Art Preserver of Fortune, the whole team can be protected while dishing out damage.
Fate is upon you!
Mona summons sparkling waves and creates a reflection of the starry sky, applying the wet and illusory bubble statuses onto all enemies in the area. When affected by illusory bubble, weaker enemies will be imprisoned and unable to move. Attacking imprisoned enemies removes that status from them, and deals an instance of hydro damage. When the status is cleared, the enemy comes under an omen. Enemies affected by an omen take more damage.
Cut to the chase!
Kuching unleashes her electro power, causing electro AoE damage. Hiding behind the shadow of her sword, she relentlessly slashes surrounding enemies at lightning speed, dealing multiple rounds of damage, with a final burst of electro AoE damage at the end. After unlocking the talent Aristocratic Dignity, casting Starward Sword increases Kuching's crit rate and energy recharge for a period of time. By firing an arrow infused with coalesced winds, Venti creates a fierce storm that sucks in surrounding enemies and deals animo damage. Contact with hydro, pyro, cryo, or electro elements causes the storm to absorb that element and deal additional elemental damage. The storm can only absorb one element each time. After unlocking the talent Storm Eye, Venti's energy will be replenished at the end of Wind's Grand Ode. If an element was absorbed, the energy of party members of that element will also be replenished. When her energy is full, unleash an elemental burst to further increase her ability to deal damage. After this, Kui can have fun causing explosions, spreading flames in every direction, and burning enemies to a crisp.
Shouldn't let your guard down.
In melee stance, Tartaglia performs a slashing attack with a wide area of effect, dealing substantial hydro damage to all surrounding enemies. And if the elemental burst hits an enemy affected by Riptide, the Riptide effect will be consumed in a hydro explosion, which deals area of effect hydro damage.
This is order!
Zhongli can bring a huge meteor crashing down, dealing massive geo damage and applying petrification to enemies caught near the impact site. Petrified enemies become immobilized. After unlocking the talent Dominance of Earth, Planet Befall deals additional damage to enemies, which scales with Zhongli's max HP. Crystallized Geo Energy bursts forth at Albedo's command, dealing AoE Geo damage in front of Albedo. If Albedo's solar isotoma is still present on the battlefield, 7 fatal blossoms are generated in the solar isotoma field, which bloom aggressively, dealing AoE geo damage. After unlocking the talent Homuncular Nature, Albedo's Elemental Burst increases nearby party members' elemental mastery for a period of time.
Blaze over!
Ganyu coalesces atmospheric frost to summon a sacred cryo pearl. While it's active, the sacred cryo pearl will continuously rain down shards of ice upon enemies within a set area, dealing cryo damage. Celestial Shower deals damage while serving as a reliable source of cryo that allows Ganyu's allies to trigger corresponding elemental reactions and further increase their damage output. After unlocking the talent Harmony Between Heaven and Earth with Ganyu in your party, all active party members within Celestial Shower's AoE gain a cryo damage bonus.
Evil conquering!
When Shao unleashes an elemental burst, he dons the Yaksha's mask that once struck fear into gods and demons alike. His attacks now deal animo damage, which cannot be overridden by another elemental infusion. And Shao's attack AoE and damage are both increased. In addition, Shao's jumping ability is greatly enhanced, allowing him to assail the enemy with plunging attacks. The Yaksha's mask brings enormous power, but also great suffering. During Shao's elemental burst, he will continually lose HP. This effect stops if he leaves the field. After unlocking the talent Conqueror of Evil, Tamer of Demons, while Bane of All Evil is active, Shao's damage gradually increases.
Higher, pants on fire!
Huta commands a blazing spirit to deal pyro damage in a large AoE. When her elemental burst hits enemies, Huta regenerates a certain percentage of her max HP. A maximum of 5 enemies can affect this percentage. Additionally, using this skill when Hutao's HP is low deals greater damage and regenerates more HP.
Flood of Frost!
Eula's elemental burst unleashes a mighty slash of her sword, dealing cryo damage to surrounding enemies and forming a Lightfall sword that follows her around. While the Lightfall sword is present, Eula's resistance to interruption is increased further. Additionally, when enemies are damaged by Eula's normal attack, elemental skill, or elemental burst, the Lightfall sword's energy is charged. When its duration ends, the Lightfall sword will descend and explode violently, dealing physical damage to surrounding enemies. The damage dealt increases with the Lightfall sword's charge stack. When Eula leaves the field, the Lightfall sword will instantly explode.
Clouds hide. The birds call!
Kaidehara Kazuha's elemental burst is the pinnacle achievement of his self-taught blade work. He strikes with the force of the first winds of autumn, dealing AoE animo damage. This attack produces a field called Autumn Whirlwind. The field periodically deals animo damage to enemies within it. If Autumn Whirlwind comes into contact with Hydro, Pyro, Cryo, or Electro, it will absorb that element and deal additional elemental damage. This elemental absorption may only occur once in its duration. Kazuha can use the Autumn Whirlwind field to easily affect multiple enemies with an element, creating ideal opportunities for his allies to attack.
Kamisato Art! Sumetsu!
Kamisato Ayaka summons the frost with flawless poise, releasing a Frostflake Seki no To that travels forward. The Frostflake Seki no To is a storm of whirling icy winds that slashes repeatedly at enemies, dealing cryo damage and blooming at the end of its duration, dealing a further bout of AoE cryo damage.
Here come the fireworks!
Yoimiya leaps into the air, together with her original creation, Ryukin Saxifrage, firing forth blazing rockets bursting with surprises that deal AoE pyro damage, and mark one of the hit enemies with Aurous Blaze. All attacks by any party member other than Yoimiya that hit an enemy marked by Aurous Blaze will trigger explosions, dealing AoE pyro damage. If the enemy affected by Aurous Blaze is defeated before it expires, The effect will pass on to another nearby enemy, who will inherit the remaining duration. Aurous Blaze explosions are subject to a short cooldown. After unlocking the talent Summer Night's Dawn, for a short duration after casting Yoimiya's elemental burst, nearby party members other than Yoimiya herself gain an attack bonus. This bonus is based on the number of Tricks of the Troublemaker stacks Yoimiya possesses when she unleashes her elemental burst.
The hunt is on!
Aloy throws a power cell filled with cryo in the targeted direction, then detonates it with an arrow, dealing AoE cryo damage. An explosive infused with elemental energy. Remarkable. If utilized in the right time and place, its effectiveness will be indisputable.
Now you shall perish!
Gathering truths unnumbered and the resolve of wishes uncounted, the Ryden Shogun unleashes the Musou no Hitotachi, dealing AoE electro damage, using Musou Ishin in combat for a certain duration afterward. The damage dealt by Musou no Hitotachi and Musou Ishin's attacks is based on the number of Chakra Desiderata's resolve stacks consumed when this skill is used. While using Musou Ishin in combat, the Shogun's normal, charged, and plunging attacks will be regarded as elemental burst damage, and will be infused with electro damage which cannot be overridden. When such attacks hit opponents, she will regenerate energy for all nearby party members. While in this state, the Ryden Shogun's resistance to interruption is increased, and she is immune to electrocharge damage. After unlocking the talent Enlightened One, if the Shogun's energy recharge surpasses a certain value, the surplus energy recharge grants her a percentage-based electro damage bonus, and more energy restoration while in Musou Ishin. The Ryden Shogun can accelerate the elemental burst rotation of her party while making the elemental bursts of her teammates more powerful. Such a seasoned leader like her remains fearless in the face of any encounter.
Covenants of the Deep!
Kokomi summons the might of Watatsumi, dealing hydro damage to surrounding enemies, and dons her watery ceremonial garment. While enrobed in the ceremonial garment, Kokomi's normal attack, charged attack, and Bake Kurage damage are increased. And she regenerates HP for all nearby party members when her normal and charged attacks hit opponents. Kokomi's damage increase and the healing amount both scale with her max HP. Additionally, Kokomi's ceremonial garment increases her resistance to interruption and allows her to walk on the water's surface. After unlocking the talent Tamanoya's Casket, casting Kokomi's elemental burst refreshes the duration of her Bake Kurage if already on the battlefield. In the pure glow of her water-woven garment, Kokomi draws power from the traditional song of the Divine Priestess. After unlocking the talent Song of Pearls, when enrobed by the ceremonial garment, Kokomi's max HP base damage dealt by her normal and charged attacks is further increased, by an amount that scales with her own healing bonus.
Oni coming through!
When Ito unleashes his elemental burst, he lets out his inner raging Oni King for a time, and wields his Oni King's Kanabo in battle. For the burst's duration, Ito's elemental and physical resistance are decreased, but his normal, charged, and plunging attacks are converted to geo damage that cannot be overridden. Also, Ito's normal attack speed is increased, and his attack is increased, based on his defense. During the Raging Oni King state, when the first or third strikes of his attack hits an enemy, Ito gains a stack of superlative super strength. With adept use of this effect, Ito can overwhelm the enemy with more Arataki Kesagiri splashes, and vaunt the might of the Arataki gang. Ito's Crimson Oni bloodline is not only a point of pride, it's his source of strength in battle. After unlocking the talent Bloodline of the Crimson Oni, Arataki Kesagiri damage is increased by an amount that scales with Ito's defense.
Cryo Incarnate!
Shenhe unleashes the power of the Talisman Spirit, allowing it to roam free, dealing AoE cryo damage. The Talisman Spirit then creates a field, which decreases the cryo and physical resistance of enemies within, and also deals periodic cryo damage to them. After unlocking the talent Deific Embrace, an active character within the AoE of Divine Maiden's Deliverance will gain a cryo damage bonus.
I'm always watching.
When Yayamiko unleashes her elemental burst, she summons a lightning strike, dealing AoE electro damage. When cast, Yayamiko unseals nearby Seisho Sakura, destroying their outer forms and transforming them into Tenko Thunderbolts, dealing further AoE electro damage. For each Seisho Sakura destroyed in this way, one Tenko Thunderbolt strikes down. After unlocking the talent, the Shrine's Sacred Shade, when Yayamiko casts her elemental burst, each Seisho Sakura destroyed resets the cooldown for one charge of her elemental skill.
Kamisato Arc. Suiyu!
When Ayato unleashes his elemental burst, he unveils a garden of purity that silences the cacophony within. While this space exists, bloom water blades rain down continuously, attacking enemies within range and dealing hydro damage. The normal attack damage of characters within this space is also increased.
Game's up. Fun's over.
When Yelan unleashes her elemental burst, she deals AoE hydro damage to nearby enemies and creates an Exquisite Throw to assist in battle. Exquisite Throw follows the active character, and when they perform a normal attack, or Yelan's lifeline explodes and hits an enemy, Exquisite Throw will join in the attack, dealing hydro damage based on Yelan's max HP. After unlocking the talent Adapt with Ease, the active character's damage dealt gradually increases while Exquisite Throw is present. If the elemental burst is cast again while this effect is active, the effect will be cleared.
I'll uproot you!
When Tinari unleashes his elemental burst, he harnesses the power of germination and fires 6 Tanglevine tendrils that automatically target enemies and deal dendro damage. After the Tanglevine tendrils hit their target, a second wave of tendrils is produced that also auto-target enemies and deal dendro damage. After studying the properties of a diverse range of plants, Tinari gained a wealth of new insight into dendro-infused arrows. After unlocking the talent Scholarly Blade, for every point of elemental mastery Tinari possesses, his charged attack and elemental burst damage are increased. Damage can only be increased up to a certain limit.
Through me, justice is served!
Sino's elemental burst summons a divine spirit to possess him. He morphs into the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer, causing damage dealt by his normal, charged, and plunging attacks to be converted to electro damage that cannot be overridden. In this state, Sino's elemental mastery and resistance to interruption are increased, and he gains immunity to damage dealt by electro-charged reactions. The Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state ends after a set duration, or when Sino leaves the field. When Sino is in the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state, his elemental skill changes, instead unleashing a Mortuary Rite, which deals thunderous AoE electro damage and extends the duration of Pact-Sworn Pathclearer. After unlocking the talent Featherfall Judgment, when Sino is in the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state, he will intermittently enter the Endseer state. If he casts his elemental skill while in this state, he will activate the Judication effect, increasing the damage of this elemental skill and firing off 3 Duststalker bolts that deal electro damage. After unlocking the talent Authority over the 9 Bows, damage dealt by Sino's normal attack and Duststalker bolts while in the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state is increased based on Sino's elemental mastery.
This dance is for you!
Nilou's elemental burst begins a dance of faraway dreams and melodic springs that causes a lotus of distant waters to bloom, dealing AoE hydro damage based on Nilou's max HP. Enemies hit by the elemental burst will sustain the lingering Eon effect, which deals hydro damage after a short delay.
The Temple of Wisdom!
When Nahida unleashes her elemental burst, she materializes the Court of Dreams and brings forth the Shrine of Maya. The shrine provides different effects depending on the elemental types of characters in the party, as follows. If the party contains a pyro character, the damage dealt by Trikarma Purification will be increased when Nahida is within the Shrine of Maya's AoE. If the party contains an electro character, the interval between each Trikarma Purification is decreased when Nahida is within the Shrine of Maya's AoE. If the party contains a hydro character, the Shrine of Maya's duration will be extended. When the Shrine of Maya is created, if the party contains at least 2 characters of the aforementioned elemental types, their corresponding effects will receive a further boost. So long as the active party member remains within the shrine, the effects described above can be triggered even if Nahida is not on the field.
Know your place!
Casting the Wanderer's elemental burst compresses the surrounding air to form an animal plenum that blasts all sources of frustration away, dealing multiple bouts of AoE animal damage. Casting his elemental burst while in the wind-favored state brings this state to an end.
A process of elimination.
Alhaitham's elemental burst creates a particular binding field that deals multiple instances of AoE dendro damage. If any chisel light mirrors exist when this ability is used, they are all consumed to increase the number of damage instances dealt. Shortly after this ability has finished, if no mirrors were consumed, then Alhaitham will generate 3 new mirrors. For every mirror that was consumed by this skill, Alhaitham will generate 1 less new mirror accordingly.
You're dead meat!
When Dia casts her elemental burst, she unleashes her burning rage, casts her unwieldy blade aside, and enters the blazing lioness state, increasing her resistance to interruption. In this state, Dia automatically unleashes a series of Flame Mane's fists, dealing pyro damage. When the duration ends, she executes an incineration drive, dealing AoE pyro damage. All damage dealt by Flame Mane's fists and incineration drive is based on Dia's attack and max HP. Also, while in this state, Dia will be unable to use her elemental skill or perform normal, charged, or plunging attacks. Her normal attack and elemental skill will be replaced by Roaring Barrage. Using Roaring Barrage shortly after each Flame Mane's fist will increase the attack speed of the next Flame Mane's fist. If a Fiery Sanctum field created by Dia's own elemental skill exists when she unleashes her elemental burst, Dia will retrieve it, then recreate the field once Blazing Lioness's duration expires. The recreated field will inherit the remaining duration of the retrieved field. After unlocking the talent Unstinting Succor, for a short period after Dia retrieves a Fiery Sanctum field using Molten Inferno Ranging Flame or Leonine Bite, she will take decreased damage when absorbing damage from Redmane's blood. This effect can be triggered once per set time period. Additionally, for a short period after Dia unleashes Molten Inferno Indomitable Flame, she will grant all party members the Gold Forged Form state. This state will further increase characters' resistance to interruption when they are within a Fiery Sanctum field. This state can be triggered once per set time period.
Taking a turn for the better.
When Baiju casts his elemental burst, he enters the Pulsing Clarity state, creating a seamless shield that absorbs dendro damage with increased effectiveness. While the Pulsing Clarity state is active, a new seamless shield is generated at regular intervals. While a character is under the protection of Seamless Shield, whenever the shield regenerates, expires, or is destroyed, the active character is healed based on Baiju's max HP. At the same time, Spirit Veins are unleashed, which attack enemies, dealing dendro damage. Medicine is a vast and complex discipline whose methods range from the strictly therapeutic to the thoroughly transformative. After unlocking the talent All Things Are of the Earth, when a character is healed by Baiju's Seamless Shield, they will gain the Year of Verdant Favor effect, which increases damage dealt by burning, bloom, hyperbloom, burgeon, spread, and aggravate reactions triggered by that character. The size of the damage boost depends on the elemental reaction, and scales off of Baiju's max HP up to a certain limit. This effect lasts for a limited duration.
Let's get this show on the road!
Using his elemental burst, Linny unleashes his magic, turning into a fast-moving Grinmalkin cat. This is not to be confused with the Grinmalkin hat. They're two different props. When the Grinmalkin cat gets close to opponents, it will call down flames upon them, dealing up to 1 instance of pyro damage to each opponent. When the duration ends, Linny will dismiss the Grinmalkin cat and ignite magnificent fireworks that deal AoE pyro damage, summon a Grinmalkin hat, and gain 1 prop surplus stack. Linny can also deactivate Grinmalkin cat prematurely.
Be sanctified.
Using his elemental burst, Nervet unleashes rupturing waves that deal AoE hydro damage based on his own max HP. After a short interval, 2 waterfalls descend that deal hydro damage in a smaller area and create several source water droplets within a given radius.
Time to shine!
Harnessing the spirit of revelry, Furina's elemental burst creates a stage of bubbles and foam that deals AoE hydro damage based on her max HP, and causes all party members to enter the Universal Revelry state. While in Universal Revelry state, each time a nearby party member's HP rises or falls, Furina gains 1 stack of fanfare per 1% of their max HP that is gained or lost. The damage dealt by, and incoming healing bonus of, all nearby party members will be increased based on Furina's fanfare. When the duration ends, all stacks of fanfare are clear. After unlocking the talent Endless Waltz, when the active character in your party receives healing, if the source of the healing is not Furina herself and the healing overflows, then Furina will periodically heal a nearby party member by a certain percentage of their max HP for a short duration afterward.